And everyone gets 3 slices. So, so thank you to Tracy and Little Book and asking me to be in conversation with you today.
Thank you for saying yes.
Oh, of course. So I have questions, and you may or may not have answers. But you're gonna read snippets. We're gonna kind of intersperse this conversation with reading. So would you bless us with the first passage? Is that okay?
Well, again, hello, everyone. It's so good to be with you all. Familiar faces, new faces, family in the room. Thank you, thank you. I want to thank my publisher, Little Brown. Thank you, Tracy. My agent is here somewhere, Rosemary. Thank you. It's so lovely to share this evening with all of you. This is home for me, so it's nice. I've been on tour, just started this week, but it's nice to be home with family. And Jen, you know I love you. I tell you personally, I say it publicly any chance I can. Thank you for loving me. So I'm going to begin from the very beginning, so I won't do too much setup. Skin and Bones is about Lena Baker and her friendships, her motherhood, her relationships. She is turning 40, getting married for the first time, and she is thinking about what's been passed on to her and what she wants to maybe let go of, and what she wants to give to her daughter. In this opening scene, we see her at a doctor's appointment. She lives in Portland, Oregon. She is a big, beautiful Black woman, and she is fiercely trying to take up space and not be erased or dismissed. And in this scene, she's having some problems with her doctor who refuses to really listen and see her. Skin and Bones. The weight I carry. I don't want to die fat. There would no doubt be whispers at the repast. It's too bad she didn't take better care of herself. They will speculate, assume, diabetes, heart attack. If I die fat, I hope I die in a car accident or go missing and turn up bloated and bloodied in a river. No one will mention my weight then. I will die without conversation about the obesity epidemic, and my family and friends can grieve without the added guilt from flashbacks of every time they wanted to say something about the pounds I was putting on and on, but didn't. Because here's the thing. I am not thick or big-boned or voluptuous. I am fat, obese, morbidly obese. That's what the nurse just typed into my chart. She is a wafer of a woman, the kind of woman who looks like she'll fall over should a big wind blow. This is the woman typing in the word morbid to describe my body. Oof. Everything about me is big and black, big and majestic like the ocean. Every bit of me hard to contain. My belly spills over and so do my tears and so does my joy and every family recipe and every heartache and every weekend spent at Seaside Beach. It's all with me. Heavy. It's all here, sitting on this table, the layer of the thinnest tissue paper under me, holding all this blackness, holding all this bigness. I feel the tissue paper rip under me. Wonder why they don't make it more sturdy. I pull the too small gown together as best I can. It is tight around my flabby arms. It doesn't cover my breast or stretched marked stomach. I might as well be sitting here naked. You would think doctors' offices would have large robes for their patients. Don't patients come in all sizes? The nurse doesn't realize that I've seen what she's typed. She enters the words so matter of fact. And in the space for more notes, she types, morbidly obese, but seems happy, dressed well, good hygiene. I stare at the word but, morbidly obese, but. She types again, but I look away. Can I take the urine sample now? I really have to go. I've been holding it. We'll get to that. Give me a moment. First, I need to take your blood pressure and temperature. She checks my pressure. My arm tightens to the point it feels like it's going to explode. And then when she lets the air out, my arm relaxes. Wow, pretty good numbers, she says. Like she is surprised. Like she expected there to be an issue. Okay, I'm going to get the doctor. Give me just a moment. While I wait, I fidget with the platinum miracle on my left hand. 2 more weeks and I'll be Miss Lena Wilson, wife of Malcolm Wilson. God, please let this bladder infection pass quickly. I've got a honeymoon to Hawaii party to get ready for. I twist the ring, trace the diamond with the tip of my finger. That skinny nurse didn't have a ring on. I hate that I just had this thought. I do not want to wear this engagement ring like an Olympic, hard fought for, hard won, but it does feel like an accomplishment. I did work for this, for us. After everything I went through with Brian, the on again, off, much heartbreak, heart healing, finally I am here. Malcolm is my prize and I am his. I look down at my dangling feet, thinking about the words the nurse used to describe me. Morbidly obese, but seems happy, dressed well, good hygiene. Glad I got that pedicure yesterday. My toes are painted a bright cantaloupe color, my heels smooth and silky. I always leave the house casket ready. I got that from Mom, who everyone calls honey. Whenever I leave the house, she'd ask, "You got on clean clothes?" And I knew she was not talking about my shirt or jeans or socks. She was asking about my bra and panties. If you get in a car accident, you don't want to be unladylike when the paramedics come. Always a lesson from Honey and Grandma about taking care of myself, but never for myself. Just when I decide to find a cup and go to the bathroom myself, the doctor knocks, comes in. "And what brings you in today, Lena?" she asks, not looking at me. She scrolls through my file, reading while I talk. "I think I have a bladder infection. I get them often, since I was a child, so I kind of know the symptoms. And your symptoms are peeing every 5 minutes, and it hurts every time, like it does when people have bladder infections. Okay, I'd like to check your blood sugar too. Have you ever been tested for diabetes?" I want to tell her what's not on the chart. She wants medical history, physical ailments, but I think she should know it all. The almost dead, the died too soons, the divorces and stage loves, the births, rebirths, stillbirths, the car accidents, graduations, holiday dinners, the first days of school, last days of childhood, every birthday, every happy hour, 4th of July picnics at Blue Lake Park, baptisms, breakdowns, excruciating laughter, electric slide and up all night parties. What's been passed down is Aunt Aretha's recipe for lemon pound cake that must be made for every arrival and departure of breath. She asked me for my family history. I could tell her, but I know better. The non-wafer, non-morbid woman looks at finally the urine sample, then waiting and waiting. Another knock, and then the words, bladder infection, antibiotics, and the blood sugar. But you really need to be careful carrying all that weight. I recommend trying to lose at least 5 to 10% of your body weight, and then we can reassess and put you on a weight loss plan. My doctor wants to put me on a weight loss plan, even though my test results are normal. Before she leaves the room, she offers an affirmation. "You know," she starts, "you are a beautiful woman. I hope you know that. Your skin, your hair, just gorgeous." I smile. Kind of. I think. Yes, this is a smile. Thank you. I open my mouth to say something, to correct her, scold her, to ask why she felt the need to tell me that she thinks I'm pretty. But my words do not come. Only her words are here. They are hanging in the stale, sanitized room. When I leave, they come with me. Words are like that. They follow, linger, stay a while. Here I am, carrying what is not mine. Heavy.
Keep going.
What
happens to the wafer chick? I'm also that level of petty with Lena, like, oh, okay. But you know, I love your work in general, and it's always interesting when I get the pleasure to talk to you, is that I look at Renée Watson on a kind of trajectory. Like, I take each book of yours for what it is, but I always connect to what the legacy of what you're leaving. And so I see these connective threads, and that's why I'm always so excited. We talked about this with Black Girl You Are Atlas, when I'm just like, oh, I'm noticing this, I'm noticing that, da 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 da. But also with, Lena, this being for a different audience, I'm still recognizing, the importance of the assertion of the Black body, the femme body, the fat body, you know what I mean? And how these elements come into your work in different ways, and the evolution of character is always different. Like, the way you pursue their journey is always quite unique. And so you set up a lot in that first chapter of us getting to know Lena, which is not an easy thing to do in the writing space, right? And so when it came to Lena, how did she come to you? How did she present herself to you?
So Lena came to me by way of her daughter, Aaliyah, but she has an 8-year-old daughter. And this story was first a play many moons ago. I was thinking of these characters, and the core anchor scene, it was a 1-act, so very short play. And the core scene was Aaliyah is playing with her dolls and reenacting a very grown conversation that she's overheard from her mother and her mother's friends. And Lena's response to her is like, where did you learn that language? And where did you get this from? And she's, and of course, Aaliyah's like, she doesn't say that, but you get the feeling of I'm listening to you. And I'm up under you and your friends. And so I learned about Lena. She loves her daughter and is sometimes just not aware of that Aaliyah is listening and learning and holding on to everything. And sometimes it's quite obvious, but when I was a child, I would pretend I was doing something else, but my ears would be like, what's going on with my Aunt Mary and my mom? So Aaliyah is that kid, and I think I got to know Lena through the questions that her daughter has. It helped me to figure out Lena's shortcomings by understanding what Aaliyah needs. It helped me to understand Lena's strengths by figuring out how Aaliyah shows up in the world. She's very smart. She asks a lot of questions. She's engaging, and so that also told me, oh, well, Lena's teaching her how to assert herself. So there's this balance and this tug of war of how do we teach our young people, but especially our young girls, to take a space, have voice, be the bright light, and also how do we protect them and love them and nurture them. I think I was approaching Lena by way of her daughter.
And so then how does the world of Skin and Bones come? Like, you have Lena, and then you build the community around her even more.
So, if you know my work at all, you know I love a cast. And that is because in my life, I am supported and nurtured by the best sisters and brother, and the best friend. I am so fortunate that I have both, right? I always say this, my sisters are like friends, my friends are like sisters. And so I cannot write a story about a Black woman who is not anchored by other Black women in her life. So when thinking about Lena, and being a single mom, she's a single mother, so who's supporting her? Who's helping her raise this daughter? Her mother, her auntie, her friends. It's a whole community that is loving on both Lena and Aaliyah. And I wanted to make sure, it was very important to me that if Lena, as being a Black woman in Portland, Oregon, she's big, she's dark-skinned, there are not a lot of stories with that character description. So I did not want her to be a caricature or become the standard stereotype now. Oh, that's what it's like to be a Black woman from Portland. So I made sure that the side characters, who are very substantial actually, they're also Black and big and dark-skinned, so that we can see the range and the nuance, and that we're not all a monolith, and that they're different sizes. So Lena's the biggest, Kendra is next in size, and Aspen is the smallest, but still considered plus size. So what do you do when you have 3 Black plus size women, friends, navigating a life together? I thought that was really important to have. It gave me a lot to play with the plot and their friction.
And also the church, too.
Yes.
The church is such a big thing. And my grandmother made us go to church. And, it was basically, you're going to church. And there was just no option, and you're just like this inherent fear of like, okay, we're going to church. And then you're listening and understanding and hearing the sermons and feeling the energy and seeing how important that community was to my grandmother too. And then seeing how it gets passed down. So for Lena, being the daughter and being engaged to the church, like that's a big community too. That plays a role.
And so faith definitely plays a role in the book. It's been passed down to her. So, you know, this theme that keeps resurfacing over and over is what's been left to you. So this faith that's been passed down, Black history of Portland that's been passed down, beauty standards, all the things. And because it's Portland, and Portland does have a Black community, no longer a Black neighborhood though. So meaning gentrification wrecked the Black neighborhood that was in Portland, Oregon. But there still is community, and most of the time is in our churches. So it's interesting, even people who didn't grow up in church are going to church because they want to see Black folks. They just want to see yourself and commune and be around each other. And so I could not write about a Black woman in Portland, Oregon, and not include the faith community, because it is such an anchor. A lot of the social events that happen and the organizing is through the churches.
Yeah, and then there's also like the levels of like her work, the church, her romantic relationship, which I definitely want to talk about.
Love to see it.
At 40.
Yes. There's sex.
Yeah.
People, you know, like sex is a real thing. You have a chapter called 69
I do.
that you're going to read from.
Would you like me to read it?
Yes, I That was a say.
So I believe that we, in so many ways, I will speak for myself. In so many ways, I am so different from the person I used to be, right? And then in other ways, I am the same. Like people who've known me my whole life are not surprised at all at what I'm doing and who I am and how I show up in the world. And so I thought it would be important for the reader to understand these friends and this friendship by looking into their past and the friendship that came, the friendship that came before their adulthood. Like, how did they become friends, and who were they in their young selves? And then how do we see that still show up in their 40-year-old selves? And so sometimes Aspen will say something and they just be like, that is so Aspen, because she's always been that way. So this is a scene where we get to really know their personalities. I think when you have a group of friends, there's always comparison. Who's the pretty one? Who's the smart one? Who's the conservative one? And so you have that in this dynamic of friendship. So they grew up in the 90s. So this is a definitely 90s scene, 69. We were 16 and full of mystic. Drinking from the glass bottles made us feel grown, like we were drinking wine coolers and not sugary juice. Our go-to flavors were Bahama Blueberry and Peach Beach. Kendra was stretched out on her bed, the wicker bed frame holding up a squeaky mattress. It was midnight, and we should have been asleep, but girls do everything but sleep at slumber parties, so there we were, eating Doritos and drinking up for 10 grown drinks, listening to SWV.
Okay.
Aspen was barely keeping her eyes open. She'd been yawning for the past hour, but trying to hold on, not wanting to miss anything. She had just wrapped herself in a throw blanket and sat down on the floor, leaning against Kendra's lilac walls, when Kendra blurted out, "Either of you had sex yet?" Aspen was wide awake now. She leaned forward. "Yet? None of us are married. What kind of question is that?" Kendra looked at me, rolled her eyes. Sometimes I think she couldn't believe Aspen actually took the Bible to heart, that she really wanted to follow every command, be the perfect Christian girl. She revised her question. "Okay, well, how far have you gone? Kissing? French kissing? Foreplay? 69? 69? Aspen took her blanket off. "What's that?" I asked. Kendra looked at me with shock. "You don't know what 69 means? You and Brian have never tried it?" "Brian and Lena are not physical with each other. Why are you so surprised?" Aspen said it with such conviction, I didn't have the heart to tell her. Brian and I had done a lot more than kissing. We hadn't had sex yet, but there was heavy petting and touching his hands wandering up my shirt, mine reaching into his jeans. Kendra knew. We'd been swapping stories since the time I called her in a panic, asking her how to get rid of the hickey Brian left on my neck. I knew Kendra would know what to do. She was always the one I went to for advice about hair, fashion, sex. She's the one who taught me that wearing shorts under my skirts would prevent chub rub. I had called her in a panic, thinking I had some kind of STD because of the rash between my thighs. Are you having sex? She asked. When I told her no, she said, then it's probably not an STD. And when I explained to her what it felt like and looked like, the more I walked, the more it burned. She knew exactly what to tell me to do. She is the one who taught me that big girls like us should wait for the handicap accessible stall in the restroom because it's bigger and gives more room to move around in. Kendra knew how to move in her big body, how to be comfortable in it, how to navigate space. That night, she taught me about pleasure, telling me in Aspen, 69 is the position of the bodies. You pleasing your man while he's pleasing you. I don't get it, Aspen said. Kendra gave extra eye roll. Aspen, please don't tell me you've never heard about oral sex. Giving head, going downtown. I know what oral sex is, I just don't get why they call it 69. Kendra grabbed a pen and notepad from her nightstand. Draw it, she said. She handed the pen and paper to Aspen. Aspen drew the numbers 6 and 9 over and over. Draw them closer, together, I said. She did, and then her eyes bulged out, and she looked at me like her whole mind might be on overload. I wasn't even trying to hide my laugh. I was in tears, not laughing at her, but laughing at the whole situation. The top of the 6 is one person's head, the bottom of the 9 is the other person's head. Okay, I got it. I get it. I couldn't tell if Aspen was grossed out, embarrassed, or intrigued. But in that moment, I knew I had made the right decision in not telling her about kissing and touching Brian. And once Brian and I did have sex, I didn't tell her. It wasn't until college that she realized I had broken the purity pledge we made in youth group. When she found out that I wasn't a virgin, she looked so disappointed, so shocked. You had sex? She asked. And the way she emphasized the word you, I wasn't sure if she was saying you as in the pastor's daughter is out here living in sin, or you as in how did you get a man and I still don't have one? You as in, but you are bigger than me. As in, what do you have that I don't?
So I love that scene also. I love the interspersedness of you seeing the friends. That's like, there's this lovely ebb and flow where you learn about Portland, where you see the friendships over time, and then you see the linearity of what everyone's going through in real time of all the stuff that Lena's happening in. And I remember being a teen and you're like laughing at stuff, but you're like, I have no idea what's going on. I just want to be in the room.
That is so Aspen. She's so conservative. She's a daughter of deacons. She's so earnest. And yeah, she's all kinds of
It was like a scene, being like, I'm in this picture and I don't like it.
Yeah, their friendship, I loved writing about their friendship, and I liked exploring. They're very, very close, and they are hurting each other too. And I think, you know, you can really, really love someone and be hurt by them.
Yeah.
And Lena is trying to reckon that, be like, what does it mean to stay in relationships that are challenging? And not give up. And then how do you know when to walk away? Like, right, there are some folks you need to walk away from.
That's right.
So she's trying to figure that out. Who is worth my investment? Who should I actually put energy in to? And then who do I need to just like let go? And so these women, she's not gonna let go of it. Like there's, you know, they love each other deep, but they also, there's some jealousy, there's some comparison, there's some misunderstandings. And so yeah, she's working through that, and I liked exploring that complexity within friendships.
Yeah, and it's throughout the novel though. Like every relationship is complex. I feel like even with Aaliyah, it's complex, but there's this kind of And it's something you've touched on in your other books too, of like adults making choices for the young people and being very fearful of introducing them to a world that may not love them as much as they want to be loved. And so seeing that from Lena's perspective of her confronting Honey, who's her mother, and then also dealing with that with Aaliyah as things kind of keep going on through the book, it's such a masterfully done thing because you're juggling so much. You're juggling, it's a lot to juggle in these very kind of taut chapters too. So when you're kind of moving from this, you're moving from different mode to mode, right? You're moving from a picture book to poetry to middle grade to being in the mindset and thinking about 11 and 12-year-olds to thinking about grown women, like and what that's like. How was that for you in the writing? Like, how is there kind of a switch that kind of goes on once you're reintroduced to the language you've written?
So I always say I am a storyteller. So sometimes the story comes to me as a poem, a play, a novel for adults, a picture book, etc. So I mean, as far as the like getting in the mindset, that wasn't the challenge. I think the challenge was more just giving myself permission to go there and to be vulnerable on the page in a way that I restrain probably a little bit more when I'm writing for young people. I'm thinking a lot more about making sure that they know these characters are going to be okay. I don't really do happy endings, but I make sure there's some kind of closure when I'm writing for young people in a way that I didn't have to worry so much about this. Everything's not tied up so neatly. There's some things that linger because I trust that adults can handle that, right? But when I was thinking about writing this as a novel, fortunately, I had time because the pandemic happened. And so I wasn't traveling, I didn't have contracts or anything going on. And I was going through a lot, and I needed to put all of my feelings into something. So I started writing it, and the beauty of it was that nobody knew. It wasn't under contract. I hadn't told my agent, like no one knew I was working on this adult novel, which means there was no pressure, which means I could play, I could really let it sit, I could come back to it, and so I wrote it all very quickly, the first draft, and then went back and back and back. Messed with the margins. If you have the book, you'll see, I wanted the book to be a physical representation of Lena's life, trying to fit into a place that's not made for her. So we moved the margins in. She's a librarian, she's a scholar, she's into research. I think she loves poetry and definition. So throughout the book, you might have, there are these vignettes that are just kind of little pieces of her brain working and the notes that she's taking as she's researching Black history. So I feel like I got to play a little bit more and experiment with language in a way that I don't necessarily do with format in children's literature.
And that's what I also love, because I'm just going to say the word a lot, love. I love when we get into those, because even after the first chapter you have morbid, and then you kind of said more as in, and so there's this rhythm where you have these key words and you give them their own section, and you define them in relation to Lena's life.
Yeah, because I think like this. Like, you're somewhere and someone says something and it makes you think of something else. Or you hear a song and it brings back a memory. So I wanted the book to feel very much like Lena's mind. Now she's going home thinking of the word morbid and all the things that it means. And what are you really saying about my body when you use that word? And when she's in church and they're talking about forgiveness, she's thinking, well, everyone tells you to forgive, but they don't tell us how. So, like, can someone break down the definition of it? I know what it is. I do not know how to do it, right? So she's always turning words over and trying to get to the deeper meaning. And I think, it works because she's a librarian, she reads a lot, she's into thinking and processing and reflecting. So it lent itself well for the book to kind of feel that way. Yeah.
And it made me think, because Jacqueline Woodson is really pointed a lot of the time, so she'll be like, what do you mean by that? And that's kind of how I was reading those, of like Lena saying, what do you mean when you say that in reality? And let me go down this kind of mental road of what this could be, but like, what do you actually mean when you say what you say to me as a woman? Yeah. It's just so good.
Well, thank you. I want to say too, and thinking about writing for young people, so I'm not I'm not going to stop writing for young people. I have more things coming out next year, actually. And of course today, Summer is Here is also published alongside this book. And I'm saying this to say that I think what I also wanted to do was continue the conversation that I've been having with young people for a little over a decade now, talking about these same issues: body image, loving yourself, legacy, how do you want to show up in the world, how do you love complicated places and people, how do you love a complicated nation, how do you celebrate and critique something, right, or someone. So I've been thinking about these things a lot with young people, and now I want to talk to the mamas and daddies and aunties and uncles and mentors, teachers who are raising them and nurturing them. I want us to think about what has been passed down to us that is worth passing on, and where can we stop it and say, you know what, I'm not teaching my children this, or when I teach in the classroom, I'm gonna make sure my curriculum is diverse. Like there's some things we can just say, we're not doing that no more. And so I want to be in conversation with us about that, and loving, and the relationship and the tension between holding on and letting go. There's a lot of that in the book, in literal death, letting go of someone you love, and also letting go of the idea of who you think you have to be, letting go of what's comfortable but not healthy for you, so that you can take a chance and grow, even though it might be scary.
And at the same time, showing love in its fullness too, because Lena and Malcolm have a very rich relationship, and it's a very beautiful. He's a unicorn.
He's not a unicorn.
I mean, I don't want to spoil it.
Look, let me just say this. I really love writing Black male characters because I have amazing Black men in my life. And I think sometimes in literature and in movies, we, especially when we're writing about Black men, we can tend to do a lot of the critiquing. Now, I'm just talking about critiquing and celebrating. We lean deep into the critique sometimes, rightfully so. And we need to explore all the things, right? I also think of my brother. I think of my godfather. I think of the pastor of the church when I was growing up. And they were stand-up men, healthy. They were not perfect. No one's perfect. They were healthy. My brother cries and apologizes and, things that you're just like, wow, this is rare for, I want that character. I want him to be seen in my books too. I say a lot, writing for Black girls. I'm writing for all of us, and I want men to be able to read this and see themselves and amen it, or be like, yo, I need to get it together, because this brother got it together, so let me, right? Even though, with me saying all that, Malcolm does some messed up stuff in this book. Like, he's not perfect. He just knows how to work on himself. And I can appreciate a person who is a work in progress more than a person who is like, I'm done growing, this is who I am, take me or leave me. So I think that what she's also learning from him is like, oh, someone can make a mistake or do something and actually learn from it and be better. And some people don't. Better. Right, and want to be.
It still seems like a unicorn.
All right, well, I guess I know some unicorns in my life.
Are they single?
No, and that's the problem. The amazing men that I know are not single.
All right, well, that's another panel.
And it's a conversation we've had many, many times, the two of us. I did like exploring dating and relationships. She's 40. I love writing women who have lived a life.
Okay.
Right? A lot of times, I don't know, I think it might have been a little easier for me to transition into an adult novel, and the characters are in their 20s, because that's adjacent to my teen, and they're coming of age still. When you're in your 20s, you think you know, but you know, there's a lot to still learn. And I remember having mentors who were, like, I was in high school, they were about 25, and I thought they were so old, and that they should know everything, and why are they making these mistakes, and why are they, and then I turned 25, and I was working with young people, and I was like, what am I doing? Why do y'all trust me? Like, I am still very much trying to figure it out, and this child is asking me for advice. Like, that, it was a huge responsibility, and I did have something to give, right? Because I had lived through my teen years. I was a mentor. I could guide them, but I still needed someone. So I had the 30-somethings and the 40-somethings guiding me. I'm in my 40s. Got a lot I can share to the 30-somethings and the teens, but I'm also sitting up under my elders and ask, pour into me, please, right? And so I think there's also that cycle in the blood, very much of Lena leaning on her ancestors, folks she has never ever met, they are long gone, leaning on real people in her world who are older than her mom, her aunt,
her grandmother,
her grandmother, and then thinking about what does she give to. So we can all be giving and receiving. And I think she's also kind of exploring that too.
Yeah. And so would you give us a little bit of Honey?
Sure.
What Honey says?
So the relationship with Honey, who is her mom? They call her Honey. You know, to the point of sometimes you really love someone and you still make mistakes and you hurt them. And I think about the young people who I've mentored and loved and then realize, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have said that. I was off that day. I had an attitude and I reacted in anger or whatever. I gave advice that actually wasn't maybe the best thing to say. Does that mean that I've ruined that child? Do I hold the guilt of that one interaction and let that make me stop working with young people? And on the other hand, I've had young people who grow up to do amazing things. I am so proud of them, and they are moving in the world in ways I'm like, I always saw that in you. The first day you walked into my class, Destiny, I was like, girl, you are a poet, and you are amazing, and she is. And so, can I take credit for that though? Is she amazing because I was her mentor? No, I'm not responsible for anybody's brilliance or their failure, not 100%, right? We are made up of all these experiences, so I can trust that even if I've done something that's not the best, someone else is planting the seed and watering it and coming to clean up my mess. And that's kind of the cycle and system. When I think of my life, I have many, many people who've impacted me. And so, Honey and Lena are working through that mother-daughter conversation of, I needed you to be more, Mama. And she's like, I did the best that I could do. What Honey says, you think I didn't notice that year after year your size went up and up when we go shopping? I didn't ignore that. I chose to affirm you. I knew there would be enough people pointing out every pound, commenting on your weight. I knew you'd have a lifetime of diets and exercise if you wanted that. I knew you could learn that on your own. But loving yourself, I taught you that. That took priority. I made sure you were clean, that your hair was done, that your clothes were cute and fit just right. And what did I say to you every single morning? Huh? What did I say? I said, good morning, beautiful. From the time you were 1 day old to the day you moved out of this house for college, I woke you up by saying, good morning, beautiful. Because you are beautiful. And I wanted you to know it, to hear it from me. I wanted those words to be embedded in you and be so embedded in you that you would never, ever doubt it, no matter what or who told you otherwise. I was not a perfect mother, Lena. I didn't know anything about these fat body movements or whatever they call it, and I didn't have any blogs to read because there were no blogs, and there were no support groups for mothers with overweight daughters, so I'm sure I could have done some things differently. But I loved you. I loved you well. That ought to count for something.
This has gone fast. I got the sign that we're I know. I'm disappointed as well. We're going to shut it down, BCM. But I just want to say the heartiest congratulations on another beautiful book, because I know how much this book meant to you. I know how much every book means to you and how much your readers mean to you. And I hope you know how much you mean to us. And this is just a culmination of the amazing legacy that you have bestowed upon so many of us. So thank you.
Yes.
We do have this thing we wanted to do, which is trivia, in which case you will win a bottle of Black Girl Magic Red Wine. Attaches the thing, so you can have a copy and get the wine.
In the book, they
With it,
have
with
some
it.
wine nights. So
Yeah, it's wine and wine. One with the H and the other without. It's like Sunday night at my house. So I have some questions that it is okay if you do not know them, the answer to them. But if you do, you will win this lovely bottle of wine, as mentioned. So one of my first questions is, how many books has Renée Watson published to date? 26?
So many.
We'll do it Price is Right style. 26? 27?
30.
30?
28.
28?
22.
22? 18, 24. The closest, the number is 21, so 22 goes to... I know Price is Right goes under, but I'm gonna go like literally closest to the thing. How many books by Renée Watson are set in Portland, Oregon?
All of them. Just kidding.
Not all of them.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
We know she's done 21 books, so how many of them do you think were set in her hometown of Portland, Oregon?
8.
8, 18,
10.
10,
15.
15,
7.
7,
5.
5, 6. The number is 8.
Yes.
So now this is Oregon, because Tillamook ice cream is in your book, and I Googled it. And which of the following is not an ice cream flavor? Not an ice cream flavor by Tillamook. Oregon strawberry, Tillamook mudslide, Pioneer pecan brittle, Mountain huckleberry. How many people think Oregon strawberry is not it? Okay. Tillamook mudslide, do you think that's it? Pioneer pecan brittle, do you think that's it? Okay. Mountain huckleberry? Okay, so the answer is Pioneer pecan brittle, so we got 2 and 2 over here. So this person is mentioned in Skin and Bones. What's the name of the first Black person to set foot in Oregon?
Dang.
Is it Sally Hayes? Everyone's getting nervous, like, I graduated, why are you doing that? I just wanted a book, that's it. I wanted a book, I wanted to meet Renee,
That's
give me the
it.
test. So what's the name of the first Black person to set foot in Oregon? Sally Hayes, Letitia Carson, Louis Southworth, or Marcus Lopez? So how many people think Sally Hayes? Okay. How many people think Letitia Carson? Okay. Louis Southworth. Okay. Marcus Lopez. Okay, it's Marcus Lopez.
Hey!
What's the name of Portland's oldest Black church? 1, the People's Church. 2, Mount Olivet Baptist Church. AME Zion Church. 4, Bethel AME Church. This is also in your book. So 1, the People's Church. Okay, okay. Mount Olivet? Okay. AME, Zion? Okay. Zion? Bethel? Okay. The answer is People's Church, so you win.
Wow.
You get three. Was that three? That was three. You get three. Yeah. So do we have time for questions, or should we
Yes,
decide?
we can do two questions that are so sweet and concise, but also lovely. And yeah, and not a statement of fact.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't need a mic. I don't need a mic. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Renee's gonna close us out with a reading.
Oh, live stream. Oh, they can still hear me. I'm right here.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm looking forward to reading your book.
Thank you.
So you talk about, I know we've been discussing this a lot too about taking up space, but I just want to know, like, how do you personally take up space, and how did that inspire you to infuse that into your main character, Lena?
I think my art takes up space. The sheer amount of books that I have, what they're about, who I'm centering, is my way of speaking to as many people as I can about what matters to me. So in my own personal life, I'm very quiet. I am not this person. But in my books, I can say all kinds of things. I think my characters do all kinds of things. So I think that is a way for me to really amplify what I care about. That's one way. So my point is, make art.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Make art. Make something out of the chaos that is happening in your life. You do not have to publish it. It does not have to hang in a gallery. But there is something about saying, I am carrying a lot and I need to get it out. So I'm going to draw it, I'm going to sing it, I am going to dance it, I am going to get it out. Because carrying it is too heavy of a load.
That's right.
So I tell young people, you don't have a lot of power, you can't vote, you're not making rules at home, at school, but you have your voice, you have art, and you can make something out of the chaos.
Ooh, thank you.
And one more quick one, but Renee, you did want to gift us with another passage. If there are no more. Yeah, Katie. Yay. And then we'll have cake.
God, I'm so sorry for holding up the cake.
It'll still be there.
I've just been, I'm so excited to read. I've been flipping through, and each section. Wow, it's really nervous asking a question. Each section feels like it could be its own thing, and I wondered how much what was your process like in creating those sections? How much did they move around? It almost feels like you could read the book in not like a choose your own adventure, but like a tasting here and tasting there. Like each thing feels itself, as well as being completely intertwined. So I wondered what that felt like for you.
So kind of the underbelly of the book is a project that Lena's working on for work, and so she's doing a lot of research, and I needed a way to fit that in, but to make it a part of the book. So those are in there as little vignettes. And yeah, at first they were chronological, but it took away from the story. It took you out of the actual story and felt like a footnote, so I was like, oh, it needs to be in response, and Tracy helped me with this. It needs to be that she thinks about this in response to what's happening in her life. So she remembers this thing about Black Portland history because of something someone said. So they kind of started to flow like that. So I didn't write it that way originally. It was maybe the third or fourth revision when it really started to take shape of how it could ebb and flow. Yeah. I'm gonna close. We heard from Honey. I want y'all, from what Honey says to her daughter, we're gonna close with what Lena says to her daughter. This is a letter she writes to her that she's not given it to her yet, but based on some questions that Aaliyah has asked her, she knows that she's gonna need to tell her this one day. Dear Aaliyah, believe the women who are still able to laugh. Trust the ones who know how to nurse a wound. who know something about the time it takes for hurting to heal. Believe me when I say you have to hold on tight to yourself. Keep your mind anchored to what you know to be true. The anchor is me, is Honey, is Amarita, is every Black woman who came before you and survived. They are holding you too. Their know-how, they're not gonna let nobody turn us around, their loudness, their pride. Believe those voices above all other voices. Believe that it's not your responsibility to make anyone see your worth. You just be every bit of brilliance and beauty you are. Just because they don't believe you, don't mean it's not true.
Amen.
Thank you so much for joining me.
We'll cut cake for you too.
Yeah.
3 lines going. We're gonna have one along house right wall to sign. Renee's gonna be in the back to sign. A line down the middle if you would like to purchase any other books from us. We've got Renee's books, we got Jen's books, and a line coming down on house left for cake. The library just closed at 8, so eat your cake and then
Actually,
just like please grab your items as you're out leaving.
Actually, eat it. I need to eat the cake, anime. How are you? Good to see you. Yeah, let's talk about that.